Okay.
So if you could start by telling me a little about your experiences with Y Learning, how long have you been affiliated or known about the program, and what roles do you play in the program?
Sure. The Y Learning program hasn't been here too long. I think it's about 3 years, 3 or 4 years. So we about 4 years ago, they started the after-school tutoring program, and I watched it for about a year, and then I jumped into it the second year just by tutoring. So once a week or twice a week, I would tutor the kids in the program, Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. And by the next year, I just wanted to take it over. So this year, I've been the site coordinator. So all of the students and the counselors come to me every day, Monday through Thursday, and it's all developed out of my classroom. So the counselors report to me, the teachers that tutor report to me. So it seems to be running better this year because it's coming out of one central location versus in years past where kids were going to whichever classroom they were being tutored, they were going to that classroom. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So like in previous years, if they were being tutored, if it was Monday and they had reading, they would go to see this teacher. And it was a little bit confusing because they weren't sure which day they had which teacher. So we combined all that, and now they always come to my room, and then we tutor out of my room. So it's more seamless, it seems, this year for the kids. Yeah. And we're just so invested in them since it's the same 30 kids every single day that come, whereas before it was some kids would come if they want to, or they'd try to get out of it, or we didn't really have a roll call. We didn't really have a system. So it seems to be working better with one teacher in charge of the program.
Okay, so when you explain Y Learning to other people who aren't familiar with it, what do you tell them about the program?
I say it's for students that are struggling academically, reading, writing, and math. So what we do is we identify students that have an academic need and a economic need. So first we look at students, particularly in third and fourth grade, because that's the EOG grades. So we're looking at students that with extra interventions, with that extra support, they could pass the EOGs. So our ideal candidate is a level 2 Are you familiar with standards-based grading?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So our ideal candidate is a level 2 student that wants to work, that's dependable, but that with extra support could be a level 3. I'm not looking for a level 1 or students that have IEPs that are just so far below that I can't really push them over the edge. So our ideal candidate is a level 2 student that wants to work, that has the grit and the tenacity, and will put in the extra time, and then with the extra hour or 4 hours a week could pass the EOGs. The second thing we look at is, can they afford it? So we look at where they live, the route number, and their economic status, really. And so if you have a child that's at a level 2, you believe that they can really push themselves, and then you know that they can't afford private tutoring, that's the student that's perfect for the program.
Okay. So what you've kind of started to answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. So what are the goals of the program in your view? What are the big goals of Y Learning?
In literacy, or did you say overall?
Overall, I mean, you could talk about different content areas, but overall as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Overall, my ultimate goal is for them to pass the EOGs, right? So at the end of the year, I want them to be meeting benchmarks in reading and math, and the best way to determine that is if they pass the EOG. So that's the ultimate goal. Throughout the year, we do monitoring. Like I just pulled, and I can send it to you without the names on it, but I just pulled the 30 students, and I put together all this data of fluency, which is reading fluency. I'm not familiar with how familiar you are with education, but fluency is how fast they can read in 1 minute. So they have benchmarks in the beginning of the year, mid of the year, and the end of the year. And our students, 88% of them are showing growth in fluency. So that's a big plus for us. And then 100% of them, every single one of them, are showing growth in their reading level, their TRC, from beginning of the year to mid-year. So we're looking at that too. Their level still may be below benchmark. So right now, a fourth grader needs to be reading at a T. So they might be reading at a R. But at the beginning of the year, they were reading at a O, right? So 100% of them have shown growth in reading levels, which is really big for us here in the program. Still sometimes below benchmark. But what I really look at is, are they showing proficiency in math and reading on their report cards? Or are they meeting objectives in those two content areas in their regular curriculum? And right now I have 42% of them are showing mastery in reading and 42% in writing, in math, for their third quarter report card. So there's a couple different things at play here, right? So it's EOGs, report cards, reading levels, fluency. We also progress monitor and do interventions in like math computation and word problems. So we're doing interventions and progress monitoring all along, and then trying to see if they are showing growth.
Okay. So, and as usual, you've read my mind, and you've already previewed the next question. What are the biggest benefits or successes of the program, and if you can give me examples of impact? So, kind of following the same line of thought that you were just describing. Okay.
So I'm really a data person. So what I've done is I sat down in the last week, and I'm looking at it right now. I should have emailed this to you, and I can when we get off the phone without their names on it. But I'm looking for, are they growing? And I don't necessarily care if they've hit benchmarks as much as if they're growing. So if I have a kid that comes in at a level, the reading levels go from A to Z. So again, stop me if I'm speaking way below you and you know all this, but in fourth grade, for example, they have to read a P, come in at a level P, and leave at a level T. So I might have a child that comes in at a level K, which is second grade, and right now that child is level N. So even though the level N is far below where they need to be in fourth grade, they're still showing immense growth. So we're closing the gap. So my ultimate goal is that they're closing that gap with this extra hour each day of interventions. So the success is in the numbers, right? So I look at all these spreadsheets, I'm going, 100% of these kids are showing growth in reading, period. 42% of them are meeting the criteria in reading, which is great. But then there's this whole other side of why learning that has to do with their confidence level and their excitement about learning. When the bell rings, these kids are flying through my door. Like, I would say, I tell the counselors, when you brace yourself, here they come. And it's like Walmart on Black Friday. It's crazy the way they rush through the doors to try to get in. And it's because we make them feel good about learning. So they're in the regular classroom, and they're getting beat down because they are struggling. And they're struggling reading, and they're struggling math, and the teacher's going a mile a minute, and they feel lost. And our class size, we have 32 kids in a classroom at these grade levels. So these kids feel lost and not heard. And they come into Y Learning, and it's fun, and they feel successful, and they're building confidence, and they're excited now to learn. And to me, that's even more than the data. And they will go take a test in the regular classroom, and at the end of the day, they are rushing down to show me their test score. And just throughout the year, to see them build up that confidence and be excited that somebody else is excited for them, right? And that's a huge piece of it. So the data looks great, but for me, it's that excitement about learning again, which sells it for me.
Okay, that's good. That's very that's very impressive. So you've talked a lot about the benefits and successes. What are some challenges or improvement needs that you see with Y Learning?
Sure. I feel like I've fixed several this year. Okay, so I try to stand back and watch things first before I jump in. And the first year when I watched it, like I said, it was we have this one hallway, and it's the fourth and fifth grade hallway. and they would call for Y Learning, and the kids would come down, and they don't really know which classroom they're going into, because is it Monday, is it Thursday, who's doing reading, who's doing writing. It wasn't consistent, which made the numbers drop, because it's confusing. Is Mr. McFarland teaching today? And there was just no rhyme or reason. Who has the snack? I mean, they're very big into their snack time, right?
Right.
So who has it? We've run out. Oh, no, it's in Miss Mercado's room. It was kind of chaotic. So we saw a lot of inconsistency in attendance. So it was like, well, is Elvis Baldo coming? No, I haven't seen him since last week. There was just no consistency. So even though it's harder for me to transition from having my students all day and then 2 seconds later my Y Learning starts, it's better for the students, because now they come in 3:45, they all come into my room and they sit down and they have the same spot. And they all have their snack, which is always in my room, and they all have their homework, and they have the same counselors and the same teachers, and it's very consistent. And I have the exact same 30 kids every single day. And so I think that was one thing that we fixed. Another thing is that we've told them very clear that this is a privilege. And I've had to, quote unquote, fire 2 kids this year. And I have 30 slots. If you want to be here, I will help you work. I'll help you. I believe in you. But if you don't want to be here and you want to be a disruption, then this program's not for you. I'll replace you. So in previous year, we've never replaced kids. This year, since it's mine and I kind of get to make that decision, I've replaced a couple kids, and the other kids know that I'm serious about that. We're here to learn. We're here to work. We're here to have fun. But if you don't want to be here, then I'll replace you with my waiting list of kids that do want to be here. So the challenge of the behavior has really gone away as well, because now these 30 kids are serious about getting better. So I think those 2 were a big thing. The thing that you have to do when developing a program like this is provide transportation, though, because out of the 30 kids, I have 3 people that carpool, and the rest have to ride the bus, the YMCA bus. There's no way these parents, a lot of them work at night, a lot of them have these blue-collar jobs that they can't leave and come up here. I mean, they're bused in from Raleigh. So if we didn't have the transportation piece, none of this would happen. So that's another piece.
Okay. What are some challenges related to the tutoring or the academic supports that you provide? Like, what are some ways that you would like to see different resources, different ideas? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Let's see. Well, this year was another thing. We didn't have enough technology the last couple of years. So this year the YMCA gave us a set of iPads, which really helped. And then Wake County, they just did a rollout of Chromebooks, so we're getting those next week. So the lack of technology has been a challenge in the past that's slowly being fixed. So first we got 5 iPads for the kids, and within next week we'll have Chromebooks for every child in the building. So that's been a shift, and a good shift. Where before we had lots of different teachers tutoring, and now we have the same 4, and these 4 are very invested in these kids. So I think having just a few teachers be really invested is a big deal. Well, we have to cover a lot in an hour, right? So we have to cover reading, writing, and some math in 1 hour, and it's hard to close a year or 2 years worth of a gap in 4 hours a week. So that's going to be a challenge, right? Just when you have a kid that is reading on a 2nd grade level, getting her to a 4th grade level with an hour a day of tutoring. It's going to close the gap, but sometimes we don't close it all the way. Frankly.
What approach to reading are you using? Like, how do you have your tutoring set up?
We have, so in my room I have a binder for each child, and the binder is really for progress monitoring and interventions. So when they come in, they grab their binder and they open it, and it's cut into reading, math computation, and math word problems. So we're doing are you familiar with the difference between interventions and progress monitoring?
Yes.
Okay, so Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we're doing intervention. So we're working with them, we're doing small groups, we're doing centers, we're doing one-on-one, and then Wednesdays we do progress monitoring.
Okay.
So they grab their binder, and as the rest of them are doing front row or online interventions, I'm pulling each one over to the side, and we're doing, they bring their binder over to me, and they do their fluency progress monitoring. So we look back and we go, okay, so last week you read this many words in a minute, and out of the passage you were able to answer 3 out of 6 questions. Let's see what we can do this week. And it's the exact same routine. It's a passage, it's the fluency, it's on the back, it's questions. So they're self-monitoring, they're trying to beat their score from the week before. Mm-hmm. And if you flip the tab, then they have math computations. So we go back and we review, okay, so last week you were able to get 2 out of the 4 computations right. Let's shoot for all 4 this week. And you keep going, and it's a word problem. So they're able to, it's not a free-flying papers all over the place. They're able to go back and look at their progress. They're able to chart their progress. They're able to see, well, what did I do last week? Can I beat it? I think keeping all their data in one notebook helps them visualize, I'm making growth, and it gives them that push. Well, I read 86 per minute last week. I'm going to get to that 90 point. So we keep our data in the book as well, which is, I think, helpful.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the iPads? Are they doing a online intervention or something?
Yes, it's called Front Row. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't know that one. How does that work?
Okay, so yeah, it's great. I've used 10 Marks before. I've used Extra Math. For Front Row is by far the best one. It's set up a lot like, do you remember playing like Candy Crush? Like, did you ever see that or play that?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's kind of set up like where you kind of go different levels up. So that they log on, and it's individualized. They log on and they can pick either reading or math. So if they pick math, it comes up and it comes a word problem, and then it has a blank page that they can, work out their work. And if they get the problem correct, it's a lot of visuals. If they get the problem correct, the next problem is a little harder. If they get it wrong, it comes up with an instructional video that they have to watch about the topic. So let's say the question is, here's a map, which 2 streets are parallel? And they get the question wrong, the video comes up reviewing parallel and perpendicular lines. And the next question scaffolds down. It's easier. If they get it correct, the next question is harder. So if they get a certain percentage correct, then they move up in their coins and in their game, and they can buy things with their coin. So I like it because they can earn things. They love to earn coins on it to buy it, and it's differentiated. So you don't know who's on what level when, and it's not just feeding them through the program. It really backs it down, and it makes them watch that video if they get the problem wrong, which is cool.
Okay, cool.
So we use Front Row on the iPad, and then we actually do a lot of Kahoots on the iPad. Are you familiar with that?
Yep. Uh-huh.
Okay. So, like, at the very end of class, last 5 minutes, we'll do a math or a reading Kahoots, and they all use the iPads and technology for that one, which they love.
Okay. Where do you hope to see the program in the near future? Let's say, like, 5 years from now.
How long from now?
5 years.
Well, I'd love for it to be bigger.
Okay.
But I think it's only going to get bigger if you have the same consistency of, well, I'll run the 4th and 5th grade classes, another teacher will run 2nd and 3rd grade classes, and another teacher will run K. And I would love to see it get bigger because I think the smaller kids could really benefit. It's not all about the EOGs. I think the smaller kids could really benefit from programs like this, but you really have to have one teacher completely invested in the program and not just popping into tutor and leaving. So I'd love to see it continue. I'd love to see it get bigger. You got 30 kids on a bus. A bus holds a lot more than 30 kids. So I would love to see it get bigger and separated by grade levels.
Okay. So you already kind of talked about examples of impact. Could you, without naming names, Could you give me an example of a student or two who have shown academic success and what that looks like?
Sure. So I'm looking at one right now. So I'll just call her Jay. So Jay came to me at the beginning of the year. She was very shy. She didn't talk much. She was the typical child that sat in class and just kind of hid because she just wasn't getting it. And so she came to me, and now she is making threes, which is meeting proficiency in math and reading. She went from reading 112 words per minute. 1 quarter later, she was 121 words per minute. She went from reading a level N to a level R, which is now meeting benchmarks. And so her closing this gap has completely changed her personality. She comes in, she finishes her morning work in her regular classroom and comes to me and asks for more problems. Once I give her more problems, she will often ask me, what are you teaching next? She likes to be preloaded for the next activity. So when we're teaching fractions, she wanted to know all about decimals, how they're related to decimals. So she's figured out that if she is pre-taught the concept, she's more successful in class, because now all of a sudden her concept, I've seen this before. I know that 6/10 is equal to 0.60, right? So she's now raising her hand. She's now just really blossoming because she gave that extra support through the Y Learning program. And now she's pretty much opted out. I mean, I don't even know if I would have her next year because she's meeting all the benchmarks.
Okay, great. So, last question. Tell me about the ways that Y Learning is benefiting your school community overall. So, in other words, how do people perceive it as a benefit and sort of part of your campus community and climate?
Well, the kids don't know, but the community understands that it is a free tutoring program for kids that don't need it, can't afford it. The kids have no concept of this, but I've had other parents, affluent parents in the area say, hey, if you ever need any snacks for Y Learning, let me know. They know in the community what we're doing behind closed doors at night. And oftentimes we have clubs in the area, like we have a garden club, we have a tech club, and after school, so the parents are picking them up from garden club and tech club, and they see my Y Learning kids come out. So they know there's a free tutoring program, and they know that we provide transportation for them. So it really shows not only a partnership between the Y and Wakefield, but that everybody's got their hands in on getting these kids where they need to be. They also see me not leaving the building till 6 o'clock at night, right? Because I'm waiting for the last kid to get picked up, or I'm waiting, for the bus to leave. So I think that people in the community see that we're not leaving these kids behind. And we don't care that they can't afford it, and we don't care that their parents can't drive 20 miles up the road to pick them up. We're gonna take good care of them. And I think that speaks volumes.
Absolutely. That's great. Are there any other thoughts you would want to share with me to help me better understand your program? Anything that I have not asked that you wanted to share?
I'd love for you to come watch an afternoon of our program. I mean, just to see these kids light up. When they call over the PA and they'll say, "Y Learning to Miss Kowaleski's room," they don't even finish saying it before the kids are rushing in, and they're like knocking each other over. And it's not me. It's just that they feel success finally. And they have been here for years, and they have been quiet and forgotten and shoved, and now it's like, wait a second, somebody's listening to me, somebody wants me here. They feel like part of a club. And I think that just builds their confidence going into even the upper grades. I would love if the YMCA had enough money to provide them Fun Fridays. So years past, they would do tutoring Monday through Thursday, and then on Friday they would join there's an after-school program through the Y that stays here. It's for kids that parents work late, and then they can just roll out of my class and they go down to the YMCA, right, which is the gym. And they're playing dodgeball, and they're playing outside, and they're doing really fun activities. But my kids never get to do that because they're being tutored, right? So one year we had Fun Friday. So they worked really hard Monday through Thursday because on Friday they got to still stay, but they were playing dodgeball, and they were, playing all these fun activities. So they missed out on that experience. And I've asked about it, but we'd have to have we'd have to have the bus running 5 days a week. But I think that's a great motivator for my kids is if I work really hard on Fridays, I'm going to get to play with all the other kids, and we're going to get to play basketball or dodgeball or whatever. And we don't give them that, even though they're working their tails off. They don't have that reward of Fun Fridays. So if I had my pick, I would have it run 5 days a week, and they get to be rewarded on Friday for all their hard work.
Okay. Very cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And
Yeah, no problem.
I will be visiting some of the sites probably next fall.
Okay, great.
We had initially planned to do some more visits this year, but time is, running out.
Sure, I understand.
So I definitely will look forward to seeing your kids and you in action. Sounds great.
Sounds great. Well, do you want this data without their names on it? Would you like me to email this to you to show you what I'm talking about?
Just to be consistent with all the other interviews, let's not do that yet, and then I'll follow up
Okay.
if I think that I need it.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah,
it was great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate it. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.